Hello, my name is Alexander and welcome to my final video on how to prepare a professional looking topper. It's all about the finish. So today I'm going to show you how you do the final bits. First of all, finalize the top, finalize the sides, finalize the base, add the attachments, and then you finalize the topper itself. So stay tuned. So the first step is finalizing the top. So remember the first stitch that we did when we were attaching the closure onto the base? And we created that stitch from the underneath. I've obviously used a different colour there so that you can see it. Now what we need to do is hide that. So in order to hide that, you're going to take a piece of weft. First of all, the section of the closure, you make sure that you get that out of the way so you can see exactly what you're doing. So you're just going to take a piece of weft and literally trace it just above where that stitch is, all the way around. And then you're going to attach it in place. The next step is finalizing the edges. So if you have opted to have your weft overshoot your base, as I have got here, then what we're going to do is we're going to fold each one over and sew the top side to the bottom side. So what I mean is, for example, if I've taken this one here, as you can see, it overshoots the edge of the net. So this is where the net ends. This is where my weft ends. So all I'm going to do is sew it over, and then I'm going to sew that together. If you've got an edge where the weft is really long, then what I would suggest is just cut that portion off, because you really only need 1/2 inch of the overshoot in order to fold it over. The benefit of actually using this step is that it does make your unit a lot more sturdy than if you haven't. If you haven't overshot it, but you've got little bits hanging out, just simply snip those off with a pair of scissors and you will be fine. So if you have overshot your weft over the net, then you're going to fold that over and sew it together. And if you haven't, you're just literally going to cut off any bits which look a bit messy. So I'm going to do that now and you'll see the results. So this is what you're aiming to achieve. So as you can see, I have taken the overshoot and have bent it over and I've sewn it directly on top of the weft that was underneath. So it's almost like you're sandwiching the two sides together. So the top side, which is here, with the bottom side sandwiched together, and that's what gives it its extra bit of rigidity. The other benefit of it is that it actually looks very natural. So once it's on and it's flipped upside down, and I'll show you, you can't actually see the edges. So it looks a lot neater. Now just make sure that you do it on each one. And as I've said before, if the overshoot is too long, then just snip it. So you get roughly about 1/2 inch of every single one. So you should have each one marrying up to the weft underneath. And do that on both sides. And the next step now is finalizing the base. To finalize the base, all you'll need is a pair of scissors. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut around the edges of the net where the lace or your closure meets the net. So as we've created that first stitch all around here, as you can see, you're just going to go on the inside of it, so not too close to the stitch so that it comes loosened, but just go possibly about a quarter of an inch outwards. And you're going to just cut that all the way. And what that does is it releases the closure underneath. This is especially good, for example, if you've got a client that, or if you yourself do not have any hair in that section and you want to glue it down and you're using, for example, a lace closure, then it allows you to have direct contact with the actual closure as opposed to you trying to glue the net. You don't need this part of the base. And there you have it, nicely revealed. And we'll move on to the final stage now. Next, you're going to put the attachments on. So you've got a couple of options here. So you can either use clips, which are grips like this, which open and close. And they're quite good if you have got, you know, medium to thin in hair. But sometimes they don't actually hold. So if you find that the grips are not holding, then I suggest that you use Velcro. So, and you're not using the felt side, you're using the other side of the Velcro because that's what's going to stick onto your hair. And you will just attach these in the areas that you want them to be on your actual piece. So if you're just using the Velcro only, then I would say top, bottom and two sides. If you're using the clips, exactly the same, but you can also have a combination as well. So you can have at the front and the back, you've got the Velcro, and at the sides, you then have the clips. So you can just play around with it and just see what suits you best. Now, for example, if you are gluing your section down, so for example, you've got no hair at the top and you've got a lace portion, then you don't actually need to have any attachments here, and you can just have the attachments in the areas that you're not gluing down. So you just go ahead and you just sew those on directly onto your base. So just to note that when you're sewing the grips on, it's almost like when you're sewing buttons on. So they've got holes on each side of them, and you're literally going to put your thread through those holes and through the base of your unit. And you do that on either side, and that will secure it in place. When you're looking at the putting on the Velcro, you're going to sew around the edges. Now, what I would suggest is that if you're purchasing Velcro, make sure you purchase the Velcro that has got the cloth edges, because if you don't, it might be very difficult for you to get your needle through it. So if you purchase the Velcro with the sort of plastic edges, it might be difficult to get your needle through. So just be cautious when you're purchasing the Velcro if you're going to use Velcro. Another thing that you can also use as well is if you are gluing each area of the volumizer onto your scalp, you can actually use silicone patches, and they would look similar to the Velcro other than the fact that they are smooth, and all you will then need to do in that instance is just apply glue to those sections, and then you just place it on your head. All that's left to do is to prepare the hair. Now, all that means is I'm going to wash it and condition it and style it. When I'm washing and conditioning, I'm putting the hair in the direction that I would want it to fall as well. So I will be putting the center parting in this. Because I've used a lace that has got a bit of a flap on top, I'm going to get rid of that, so I'm going to cut that off. It might be that any closure that you've selected does not have that portion, so that's not a step that you would have to do. But if you have, then it's just simply a case of cutting off the excess lace that does not have any hair and you don't need it. So if you've got to this stage, well done, you successfully created a professional looking topper. So this is the example that we worked on, and this is the final results. It's been washed, conditioned, slight curls put at the bottom. It's sturdy, but yet it's light. And this is the beauty about following the methods that I've just shown you. You don't have to have it bang on the first time. Practice makes perfect. So the more often you create these toppers, the more perfect you will be. Go on, have fun creating your toppers. Thank you for watching the videos. You've been with me, Cloud Alexander, and this has been how to create a professional looking hair topper.